Welcome back to the Richard Sherman Podcast. What was that call, Mitchell? Like, come on.
I knew we were going to go here, man. I mean, we were texting throughout the game, Rich. This game turned into an instant classic, and then the refs just had to get involved. I don't want to take too much away from the Chiefs. They played a hell of a game. Mahomes doing his thing. I mean, he's elevating his, quote unquote legacy to new heights. But these refs just always find a way to interject when, for the love of God, just keep the flags in your pocket and let the players play.
That's it. That's it. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it was a freaking phenomenal game. Obviously, the Jalen Hurts turnover early in the game for a touchdown is going to loom large. Regardless, the Kansas City Chiefs, Mahomes injured, re-injured and re-aggravated that ankle, soldiered it through, brought his team back down by 10 at the half. Again, he's showing greatness that we've seen it before, but we just haven't seen it this young. This young kid, two-time MVP now, about to be two-time Super Bowl MVP, I would imagine, and just playing outstanding football. Jalen Hurts, though, nothing to scoff at, played a phenomenal game. Most rushing yards by a quarterback, most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in NFL history, tied Terrell Davis for rushing touchdowns in the game. They had rookies everywhere in Kansas City in the secondary playing. Pacheco freaking had huge gains at the end. Really smart plays. Travis Kelce did what he does. I just hate it, man, because we deserve to see, again, just like last year with the AFC Championship game, Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs, you deserve to see Josh Allen go down the field and try and make an attempt at it. This game, you deserve to see Jalen Hurts make an attempt at it. We deserve that. They made the stop. If the ball was catchable, if he had interfered and it was egregious, we can live with that. We can live and say, hey, man, that was an egregious. You got to call that. You can't just let him play past that. But that wasn't egregious. We didn't see the jerseys separate. We didn't see crazy. It was end up being a scramble drill. He overthrew him. Next play, they made the stop. Give them, if you could call holding on every offensive lineman almost every play of the game. You don't, because you let them play. You could call holding on pretty much the DBs every goddamn play. You don't. You let them play. In the Super Bowl, in that moment, you cannot do that. You cannot call that call. And there's not going to be any accountability. That's the frustrating part. There's not going to be any accountability. There's not going to be any change. Goodell is going to get there and get in front of the world and say, oh, man, they did a great job in the Super Bowl. They did not. That call right there muddied a otherwise incredible game. The NFL playoffs are here. If your team's in, it's going to be fun. But what if you could actually be at the game? That'd be fun. For last-minute amazing deals on tickets to your favorite NFL team, check out Game Time, the fastest-growing app in the U.S. If your team is out of it, no sweat. They have tickets to NCAA, NHL, NBA games, even concerts and comedy shows, too. So if you're in San Francisco, you want to see the Niners, download the Game Time app, create an account, and redeem the code Sherman for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, enter the code Sherman, that's SHERMAN, for $20 off. No matter where you live, get out and have some fun this week. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
And that's just it, Rich. And we were talking off air before we got on. This is a play, like you just said. You see this every other play. Any passing play, you're going to see this level of quote unquote holding off the line of scrimmage. To me, that's solid coverage. Like you said off air, Rich, he didn't change Juju Smith-Schuster's route. He didn't change that play by merely grabbing his hip. This ball was not catchable regardless of that hold, in air quotes, Rich. But here we are, and I think to your point, what do you do to change this? This ruins, not only does it ruin Philadelphia Eagles, this team that is on the rise, young quarterback, young group of guys that had a great season. You've been on the losing side of these games, Rich. I know you know how deep this hurts.
It hurts, but it hurts worse when you get cheated. It hurts when you get beat. I've played in 2 Super Bowls that we just got beat. We didn't get cheated. There wasn't any, crazy call, just mistakes. We made mistakes down the stretch. They executed. They deserve to win. You tip your cap off. You win gracefully, you lose gracefully. But a game, if we'd had a game where the refs made a call where you're like, hey, what are we doing here? It's going to be hard for me to walk off that field. I need some explanation. I need something. And that's the unfortunate part because they'll get none. Now, you can't take anything away from the Chiefs because it's nothing to say that the Eagles were going to walk down the field and get a field goal. Maybe the Kansas City Chiefs still going to stop. Bang, they were playing really good. They were pressuring them. Pagano was bringing pressures all over the place, getting free blitzers all over the place. So maybe they get to stop anyway, and we're not talking about it. But we deserve to see it. And the refs took that from us with a ticky-tack call. If the call's debatable, you do not call it. In the National Football League and the Super Bowl, if the call can be debated after, you do not make the call. And New York should have called down and said, hey, wave that off. Wave that off. That's not enough. That's not enough. We're not letting the game be determined like this. And they did not. And that's two mistakes in one play, Mitchell. Like, in the speed of the moment and everything, you can make a mistake. Bang. But New York is sitting there. They got guys watching the whole game. They're like in their ear. Hey, no, that's not a flag. Wave that off. You hit Carl Sheffers right there and say, wave that off. That's not a flag. They should be kicking a field goal, and we should be watching the Philadelphia Eagles see if they can do something with it. If Jalen Hurts playing the game of his life, can he make a shake? And instead, we sit there and watch them run the clock out and kick a field goal, and there's no time left. And it just doesn't feel right.
And to your point, Rich, what they took outside of the Eagles, outside of the players on that team that are dealing with the devastation of this loss, they took it from the fans, man. I mean, this was a game that was setting up. This second half was an absolute thriller. We saw this side of Mahomes that, I mean, he's been doing it his whole career, but he just cemented, the player that he is. But Rich, I don't know how you change this, because me watching that game right there, as soon as I saw that replay, I said, there is no way the NFL is going to allow this game to end like this. And to your point, how do you fix this? Because this is too seismic, dude. This is the freaking Super Bowl, and it's coming down to these tic-tac calls that shouldn't have been called in the first place.
You fix it by doing what I just said, Mitchell. You got to call down and tell them to waive that. Like you have done early in the game. You're like, hey, that wasn't a call. That wasn't a flag. No flag on the play. Cool. Obviously the right call. They make mistakes. They're human beings. They can make mistakes. Their eyes like, oh man, we're so used to bang. Okay, correct them in the moment, real time. Make the correction. Make the right decision. But you still can't take anything away from Mahomes. In the second half, he was magical coming off the injury. They must have gave him some magic potion at halftime because he came out there. He made an incredible scramble. The scramble is one of the plays that's going to define his career, his drive. I mean, everything. He's playing through injury, high ankle sprain earlier in the playoffs, and he just played through, and he kept soldiering through. 3 Super Bowl appearances in 5 seasons. He got 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, Mitchell. He's getting a gold jacket. He don't got to play no more, and he's getting a gold jacket. There's only 3 quarterbacks that have ever done that in the history of the game: Brady, Montana, and Mahomes. I mean, what else can you say? That's elite company. He deserves. He's going to be like the GOAT conversation only has Brady in it right now. And we're not going to go there. We're not going to go silly. We're not going to get silly and say, hey, this kid that got 2 Super Bowls is the same as the guy that went to 10 and won 7. Nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And guys that do that, you're silly. Like, let him win 7, and then just, hey, you can have whatever conversation you want. But it's a reason nobody else has won 7. Because it's very difficult to do in the National Football League. But give him all the credit in the world. He soldiered through. I mean, he's on the Mount Rushmore right now of quarterbacks, of elite quarterbacks in the National Football League's history. But the greatest of all time is going to be Tom Brady until somebody proves otherwise. And this isn't enough right now. It just hasn't had enough time to prove otherwise. I'm not gonna disregard, 22 years of high level play because a kid in 5 years has played at a really high level. I'm not built like that. But give a lot of credit to Jalen Hurts, too. I mean, played an incredible game. I wish we would have saw what he was able to do with one more drive. Just hard, man. It's hard.
Well, if anything else, Rich, it should make you feel pretty good. It make the NFL feel pretty good that this league's in pretty good hands, man. I mean, we were talking about Joe Burrow a couple weeks ago, and is he that top dog? I think Mahomes had a chip on his shoulder after Burrowhead was being called out by the Cincinnati Bengals fans, and he took it personally, him and Travis Kelce, and now, I mean, I think he's cemented himself as legitimately the number 1 runaway guy in this league right now. Right from kickoff, Philly seemed to take this game into control, and but for that fumble by Jalen Hurts, it looked like it was going to be on the cusp of a blowout for the Eagles. I mean, what change do you think at halftime for the Chiefs to go down every single possession. Score, 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 score.
It's the heart of a champion. It's the adjustments by Bieniemy and Andy Reid. I mean, Andy Reid is creeping into the Belichick conversation, as one of the greatest coaches. He'll be coach of this decade. He'll be on the all-decade team this decade, and it'd be hard to argue otherwise with what he's been able to do with this team, talent at quarterback, the youth, young guys coming in there. I mean, Tony just got there, midway through the season, had an incredible impact. We didn't even talk about the punt return. That was a game-changing play right there. I mean, that play really kind of almost broke the back of the Philadelphia Eagles, and those mistakes can't happen. But you just hate that. It just leaves a sour taste in your mouth every time you think about it, because you're like, it feels incomplete. The game feels incomplete. It feels like the Chiefs deserve to win. No question about it. We're not disregarding that. It just feels incomplete because it feels like we deserved one more possession. Just like after the thriller, the Kansas City Buffalo last year, you're like, feel like we deserve one more possession. Like, doesn't feel like this should be over right now. I feel like the other guy gets a shot. And a referee with a subjective call took that from us. And that's where it's like, human error cannot be. At this moment, you take their whistles away. Cut them off their neck. Like, do not give them a whistle. Do not blow that whistle and throw that flag at all. In this moment, in the red zone, he wasn't even 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage. He was within 5 yards. Like, you cannot, there's so many rules tilted to give the offense benefit. It's an automatic first down every single time. Hey, hands to the face, automatic first down. Holding, automatic first down. Pass interference, automatic first down. Like, you're going to give them a first down no matter what. And so it's hard enough to play defense. It's dang near impossible. And we go to these competition committee meetings and you're listening to people like they're talking about the drop tackle now. And they're like, we need to discuss this. But you're talking about people who have never tackled anybody. People who have never tackled anybody talking about, hey, how we need to adjust this. You've never tackled anybody. You've never had somebody trying to get a first down and you're like, they're going to drag you. Have you seen Little Giants? Did you see what Spike did? You can't just jump on people's back. They will drag you. And so you're giving them too many advantages. The game's happening too fast for me to be running, chasing a guy and be like, hey, I'm going to grab him and then I got to watch where I land. You already got to watch where you land on the quarterback. You got to watch where your hands are. You got to watch how you tackle people. Hey, I can't lead with my helmet. I got to lead with my shoulder. I got to keep it here. I got to do this. I got to wrap. I got to roll. I got to do all these things. And now you're telling me, hey, when you tackle from behind, do not land on their ankles. It's like, what? How? And now you're doing too much. Like, the game is too skewed right now. And they need to balance it out more. And now you got the QB sneak play that they're never going to address because there's no stopping that. Every team's going to install that now. Every team's going to have a mobile quarterback. They're going to run 4th and 1. We're going for it. We got to play for it. We're going to push. And you've never played defense tackle, nose tackle in this league. That's a lot of weight on a couple human beings. That's why they keep losing. That's a dangerous play. You talk about like dangerous play, protecting players. You're not protecting those guys down there. You're not protecting those nose tackles, those D tackles, those linebackers. You're not protecting those. Like, they got thousands of pounds of weight on their back, on their neck, trying to push forward. And you're just like, well, great play by the offense. They got a yard. Like, if you're gonna say player safety, you're gonna say protect guys, you're gonna say, hey, we're gonna do everything. Then you got to plays like that. You got to say, hey, that's not legal. We're taking it out. We're not gonna allow you to put that much pressure on a defense. And then people will be like, hey, that's not fair. You can't stop an offense from doing stuff. It's like, you do it to the defense every year. Every year you do something else where you're like, hey, the defense can't do this. They can't do that. They can't do this. They can't do that. They shouldn't be able to do this. You can't tackle like this. You can't hit the quarterback here. You can't chop an offensive lineman outside the tackle box. You can't do this. You can't do that. Like, enough.
To your point, Richard, I think the NFL, with this instant replay and the advancement in technology we've seen over the last 10, 15, 20 years, but more so in the last decade, they're in a tough position. These slow-mo replays, we saw with the Devontae Smith catch down the sideline. I mean, in that moment, that's a catch to me. The ball moves a little bit, whatever. But we finally, over the last 5 years, we finally are able to decide what a catch truly is. And they've been able to move past that. They made it illegal to do the horse collar tackle. But to your point, Rich, this sinking your hips into a tackle, what else can you do? You're going to limit these defensive players so much. And again, to your point with this QB sneak, I'm watching the game just with family and friends, casual football fans, and they say, how is this even legal? I mean, this is from men, women of all walks of life, non-football players, by the way. So to your point, being that nose tackle, being Chris Jones, right, hitting Jalen Hurts, past the line of scrimmage and just getting backed up 3 yards. Like, there's no way you can play that play as a defender. And that's the problem. And it's going to take one injury, Rich. It's going to take one significant injury to a D tackle for them to have to back off against that.
But it's not, Mitchell, because they don't care about injuries to defensive players, only offensive players. And that's where the game is skewed. There have been defensive players that got hurt by chip blocks, got cracked ribs from chip blocks, from unsuspecting chip blocks. Hey, they're engaged with an offensive tackle trying to do a pass rush, and the guy just clips them in their rib cage and cracks their rib. Did the rule change? No, because, hey, the chip blocks protect the quarterback. But it's like, is it player safety for everybody or player safety for the offense? Because if that's just player safety for the offense, then say that. Be very clear about it. But as a defender, you're sitting there like, hey, how am I supposed to play this game? And the more and more and more. But again, give credit to Patrick Mahomes. He was dang near perfect in the second half. He did what he needed to do. They ran the ball well. Andy Reid, they called a beautiful game. They scored on every possession. It just leaves a poor taste in your mouth, and it shouldn't.
We have two teams that, in my opinion, deserve to be here. I know the Eagles had a layup victory against no quarterback 2 weeks ago, but nonetheless, this is a top-tier offense that deserves to be in this position. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, they took a leap of faith this offseason in getting rid of Tyreek Hill. And we thought, man, hey, maybe this is it for KC. But to me, now this is where Mahomes has elevated his career. He kind of reminds me a little bit of when you were younger growing up, your assessment of greatness was, especially at the quarterback position, was can he make overall average players around him better? And this is what Mahomes has done. I mean, he's spreading the ball throughout a plethora of wide receivers that, again, the common fan isn't even going to know. I mean, we've seen this Justin Watson. We've seen Kadarius Toney. These guys getting involved in this game that no one's really even heard of. And that's what has impressed me most about Mahomes. Now he doesn't have Tyreek Hill to lean on. It's just him, and it's really Kelsey. But then he's got Pacheco and a bunch of other randoms. But he's elevating this team, Rich. This is his league right now.
He's 100% elevating this team, and he's elevating them week in and week out. You give Henny a little bit of credit because Kenny went down there and had a 98-yard drive when they had to have it in a big game, so he deserves credit. He's earned this Super Bowl ring this year.
Sure.
I don't know if he earned it every year, but he earned it this year. And, I mean, you give credit. Frank Clark has got two now. The young kids, McDuffie and the young corners they have, they got a Super Bowl ring. Justin Reed, the Stanford guy, got him a Super Bowl ring. Huge for him. Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney, everything that he was dealing with in New York comes to the Chiefs. They use him the right way. He makes a huge play in the biggest game, gets a touchdown, huge punt return, gets a Super Bowl ring. Got to be feeling really good there. It was really cool to see, you're happy for those guys. You're really happy for all the guys and all the hard work. I mean, you got to give credit to that offensive line. This defensive line came in on a historic pace in terms of sacks, the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line, and I don't think they got a sack in the game, Mitchell. They barely got pressure on him. Mahomes has been hobbled. They deserve a ton of credit because they were manning up. They were 5-0 protection, one-on-ones, and they were standing up. And Mahomes was giving them, moving around and making stuff happen. But,
Well, Rich, this is the Super Bowl. This concludes the season. It's been a hell of a run. I mean, I know we've enjoyed doing this throughout the year. Now we got to focus on off-season stuff. I mean, what's next for both these teams? I mean, do you see either of these teams taking a step back next year, or is it just all systems go from here?
Well, neither one of them are losing their quarterback. That's for sure. They got Mahomes for like another 5-6 years. I'm sure they'll re him up sooner than that because I think his cap number is like $30 million, and quarterbacks are about to be making 60. Wait till Burrows gets his deal. Jalen Hurts is still on the rookie deal. Expect him to get 50+ million, especially after leading the team he did the way he did. I think they still got guys under contract. You hope Jason Kelsey doesn't retire. I think there was grumblings about him retiring. You hope the same for Lane Johnson. If those two guys retire, this offensive line is an entirely different beast. For Philadelphia's sake, you hope they find a way to convince those guys to take another shot at it. They lose James Bradberry. I think he was only on a 1-year deal, so we'll see what they can do there. Will he give them any kind of discount? The cap goes up by $17 million, I think. And so there's decisions that are going to have to be made. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are in a great spot. They got a lot of great guys on. They're well coached. They're well run. They got guys on rookie contracts playing at a high level for them. Jet McKinnon got him a Super Bowl ring, made a huge play at the end of the game, smart play going down at the 1-yard line. I don't think either of these teams take a step back. I do think people are going to catch up. I think Burrow's got a sour taste in his mouth. I think Josh Allen has a sour taste. They got some things to correct over there in Buffalo. Hopefully Von Miller comes back healthy and rearing to go, which you got to expect. He's a freak. San Francisco 49ers got a sour taste in their mouth. They got to figure out what to do at quarterback. If you go and Purdy's not healthy, you run the kid out there again. You got to put Trey Lance out there, and then if Trey Lance plays well, what do you do? Do you continue to play him, or do you sub Purdy out? I mean, you got to expect the Chiefs to come into next season as the favorites to win it again. I mean, it's hard to argue that. You talk about they lost Tyreek, so there's reason for skepticism. But I mean, they answered the bell. They answered the bell. They won a Super Bowl without him and had even better stats than they had with him. So it just more and more. You hear rumblings about Eric Bieniemy making a trip to Washington, perhaps. That, is kind of weird, lateral move, but he doesn't get a lot of credit for what they do here. But going to Washington ain't going to solve your problem. Bieniemy, they got Sam Howell is expected to be their starter, and
no thanks. No thanks.
I would.
Well, Rich, the Chiefs are opening up as the favorites and going into next year, and the Eagles look like they're tied for third. So Vegas, of course, is already on top of it. But we've got an interesting offseason coming up, and I know we're going to be covering it a little bit. So, Richard, I will let you sign us off as we conclude. I mean, this season, it's been a hell of a time, and we got more to come, though.
Hell of a season. Thank you guys for staying with us all year long. We'll give you some off-season content. We'll keep you informed. We'll keep you educated. We'll have some free agent talk. We'll have some special guests. Maybe Defensive Player of the Year, reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Nicholas John Bosa, perhaps Niner faithful. I know you're looking for him. He got a lot to say. I had to let him blow off steam, though, because he's not happy about how the season, for rightfully so. But can't wait to have him on. Can't wait to have other special guests. There'll be some draft prospects on here. It's going to be great. Thank you for joining us. Fantastic season. See you in a couple weeks.